Good afternoon, everybody. I got a really special guest tonight. I've been wanting to do some more live broadcasts recently. If you followed me on here before, I was having problems with my phone. Hopefully, I don't have those problems this time. Look, I came across this badass lady on social media. Her name is Snez V. She actually trains out in my hometown, and some of my friends have seen her online. She's just super fit, super in the game, loves getting after it, loves training. And truth be told, I just kind of hit her up. I loved all of her content. I loved all of her pictures. I loved all the stuff she was doing, and I've been kind of chatting with her a little bit. And I was like, hey, I'd love to chat with you. You know, my background and her background seem like they're very different. Me being 26 years in the military, she used to be a professional athlete. I don't want to get into too much of it. I'll wait till I see her jump on here, and then we'll join and we'll have a great conversation about fitness, discipline, motivation, and just kind of see where the conversation takes us. So hey, thanks Nate for that. Thanks to our good friend, Mr. Torben Cedarstrand at Franklin Printworks. I know he's probably not on. He's a little too out of touch with wanting to be on Instagram, I guess. But I am, and I'm pretty stoked about the backdrop myself. I know it doesn't really change anything, but it's pretty cool. So yeah. So anyway, I'll wait till. Oh, there she is. Okay. So hey, I'm gonna bring in my new friend here, Snez. Give me 1 second. Hopefully my stuff works this time. Hey, hey,
Hey,
Sne-
how's it going?
Snez, what's going on?
Oh, just living the dream. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I got my new backdrop. I'm really excited. I was talking a little bit
Super.
about you before before you jumped on. What little bit that I know. Just kind of insta stalking you, I guess. Like I was telling everybody, I was actually just having kind of catching up with one of my friends a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, you remember that chick that was on your page that was like just getting after it? And he's like, oh, yeah, she's super cool. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to try to set up a live with her.
There you go.
Um, so anyway, yeah, I just want to say thank you again. I'm small potatoes on this thing, but in the social media realm. But, the one thing that I do bring to the table is I've got a lot of experience in a whole other realm in the military. You and I have chatted a little bit on direct message. I shared a little bit with my story with you. I'm
Yes.
sure most of your followers are going to be on here, but I would love to, just have you tell me a little bit about your story. Just kind of let me know, because the fire that you're bringing in your videos and your talks about peanut butter in the store and the new episode about fortitude. That's a lot of stuff that we talk about in the military.
Yep.
And so, you have that grit. And so I'd love for you to kind of tell us a little bit about your story, if you don't
For
mind.
sure. I'll try and kind of like shorten it because there is a lot to kind of unpack, I guess. But the biggest thing is, I played professional soccer for I played pro for 7 years. I played soccer for 20 years, and that was back in Australia. I ended up having two ACL reconstructions. After the second one, I decided, maybe I got to look at other avenues of, my career. And, you don't necessarily last as a professional athlete. There is a transition that needs to happen to an everyday person, if you want to call it that. And I was kind of coming over to the States. I was playing soccer. I was in a relationship. And I thought, you know what, why don't I just give this a go all in, finish up my career with soccer and move to California. So I did that. So after my second ACL, I moved over here. I had a job that failed within like a few months. Relationship failed after a few weeks. So I was very, very lonely, and I had nothing. I lost everything. Like I'm talking, like I lost my mentality, my emotional capacity. I lost everyone in my life. I lost all the money I had. I had basically nothing. And, you know, as most people who hit rock bottom, there's only one way to go if you choose to come back up. So I made the choice to essentially rebuild myself. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every single different facet of me as a human being, I wanted to rebuild myself. So I did that. I got some therapy. I started looking at me going into the gym. Instead of trying to build myself as a athlete, I started to just go to the gym for the way that it made me feel. Because I think we get attached to like, I got to get stronger, I got to get bigger, I got to get leaner, I got to get fitter. Really, in reality, you go to the gym because it just brings your headspace into a better place. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that because they're not connected. Like their brain and their body is just like so separated. And only when you make that decision to go, when I'm there, I'm actually feeling. And when I'm feeling better. So I started doing that and focusing on that. And, you know, I've done the whole, like I've been in fitness for 20 years. So this has been a long time. And it just took a few people believing in me more than I believed in myself to kind of really carry me over into a different world, which was opening up my own gym, my own business here in California, and then pivoting into helping more people, growing my presence online. And people said that I had a lot of good stuff to say. So I was like, all right, let me try and say more of it. And so I started just speaking about what I thought, you know, would help change people and make an impact. I love impacting people and helping them feel better about what they feel, because it's really hard to get support, especially from people that are the closest to you. You typically don't even get the support from people who are right there in your corner. You know, they don't get it. They don't get why you have these big, lofty goals, and they also don't believe in you the way that sometimes strangers do. So I was fortunate enough to kind of come into contact with the right people at the right time that helped kind of create the reality that is now my reality. You know, like you kind of, it almost happens so quickly that it's hard to keep up, but I'm not even done. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to be done. Like, I have a very never settle mindset. It takes a lot for me to sit back and go, yeah, I'm going to live this moment. It takes a lot for me to do that. I will do it, but it's tough. So all in all, I went from being, you know, being a part of a team to being part of nothing to then building something. So that's kind of been my journey in as fast as I can kind of talk about that.
Wow, yeah. Well, Snez, thank you for sharing all that.
Thanks.
And you bring a lot of energy. I could see. I'm sure you were pretty fierce out there on the soccer field, and I see why. And your videos and your talks, like I said, jokingly, even about peanut butter. You know, I sent you a message earlier, and I'll speak to this. Like the energy you bring is because this is who you are. This
Yeah.
is this is what you're giving to everybody. This is not like a version of you, right? And so I can understand that a lot because I, like you, in ways, I've got a lot of experience doing kind of my world, and I could talk on and on about it, and I'm really passionate about it. And like you shared, I have a never settle or kind of a growth mindset in the military and leadership and those things. And so I'm always looking to do something like something more, something better.
Yeah.
You know, I do want to touch on one thing. I would like to ask a little question about this. So, if you don't
For
mind,
sure.
um, you know, one of the things you had mentioned is you said when you had moved and you had lost all those things, that you said you had felt lonely. You know, with everybody around you, and then you just alluded to the fact that when you have this mindset, sometimes the people closest to you aren't supporting you, and others see so many great things in you, like from afar. You know, it's much like we treat those in our closest circle. We sometimes project our negativity and our stuff onto them because we kind of think they'll take it or they support us, and we often treat other people, you know, a lot different. So I guess the question is, what was that spark moment? What was there something tangible that you remember about that season of your life that was the turning point? Like, did you reference back to something from your childhood? Was it something that a lifelong goal that maybe you had from a kid that was parallel to soccer? What was kind of the mindset that you got out of bed that day in what you described as losing everything, traveling very far, you know, losing career, relationship, etc. Can you tell us maybe what your mindset was and how you just got up out of bed and said, I'm going to put my hair up and I'm going to like just go hard in the paint and turn yourself into what you are now?
Yes. So, how this happened was, it was looking back at it now, like I can laugh about it and it's fine because you can't truly, until you can laugh at what tried to break you, you're not good. Okay. And so now I'm at this point where I think it's kind of funny because it's like a little bit like looking at where I was and looking at where I am now, it's just so far in between. Um, so I had yes, it kind of did carry it from some of the childhood stuff, but I always had this issue of not feeling like I was good enough. And that was like, in soccer, you're constantly competing. Like, are you good enough to start? Are you good enough to stay on the field? Are you good enough to win a championship? Which I was fortunate to win a championship, but are you good enough? It was the constant question that I faced from my childhood all the way up. And I always looked at how people treated me as if that was either the answer, yes or no. If people treated me well, I was good enough to be treated well. If they treated me poorly, I wasn't good enough to be treated well. And I carried that over for such a long time. At 18, I hit my very first breaking point, and I call it a breaking point because it wasn't rock bottom. It was just a breaking point. And I actually tried to take my life at 18. And then again at 23, another situation happened where I was mistreated. And then again, I tried to take my life. And then at 26, which was 10 years ago now, that was my final breaking point. And that was the rock bottom where I did almost try to take my life again. And it was at that point that I made a promise to myself to, one, get as far and as fast away from this position, this headspace, because I was having constant panic attacks. I was constantly not feeling good. And I was so sick and tired. Like, I was tired of fighting to be like that strong person, that one that can show up for everyone, that can be everything that everyone needs. I was tired, and I wanted to end that. And I wanted to end that struggle of so much fatigue being something I wasn't. And then I decided that I'm like, you know what? There's only one way to get out of this, right? And well, there's two ways. I didn't want to take one of them. And I decided that in that moment, I had hit that point where I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to feel like I'm not good enough anymore. And I have the opportunity now to maybe build the mindset that I get to choose. Like, I get to choose if I'm good enough. No one gets to dictate or decide that for me. That is all me, and I don't want anyone else to have that power over me. So I made that choice that day, and I remember driving back to my apartment at the time, and it was a pretty vivid moment where I was really in a bad place, and I was driving like 100 miles an hour. And one of my friends, we're really close friends, she called me and she just brought me down. And this was really, really helpful. She brought me down. She got me to focus on breathing. She got me to focus on where I was in time and space. And she got me to get into this place. And I remember that moment in driving going, what am I doing? Like, literally, I'm such an idiot. And just had that, like, that I truly, like, you know how people are like constantly pointing the finger? I truly turned my hand around and I looked back at myself going, what the F am I doing? And in that moment, I slowed down, I parked my car, I went into my room, and I pulled up Google and I looked up where's the nearest therapist. Oddly enough, the therapist was in the next building to where I lived. It was insane, like walking distance. Go down one set of stairs, go up to the next set of stairs, you're at his office. The fact that he was right there was telling me that this was always going to happen. This was always going to happen. I was driving past him every single day. I was basically manifesting that relationship and that whole journey with him from the get. And I was so fortunate enough to find him. And I remember my sister said one thing to me that changed my life. She said, every single day, all you have to do is you have to remind yourself you have a roof over your head and you have to put your shoes on. If you have a roof over your head, you're safe every single night. If you put your shoes on, it means you're doing something, you're going somewhere, you're moving forward. And so I carried basically what she said over and over. And that was kind of like a turning point for my life. So to say I just woke up and one day it just happened, it was actually not necessarily that simple, but it was a series of events that got me to this point where I made that decision. It was the turning of it was basically a flip of the switch. And anyone can do this. Anyone. And it doesn't have to be that bad. People wait till it's that bad. They wait till it hurts so bad that they have no choice but to change. And this is why now I try to encourage people, don't wait till it's the worst it's ever been. Don't wait until enough is enough. Like, don't wait till then. Do something prior to that, because you'll lose. You will lose so much in the journey, and you could have saved a lot of it had you been a bit smarter.
Yeah, those are a lot of great points. I do want to say before I comment, thank you very much for sharing that. I have a little bit of personal experience in my family, in my realm with some of those things you were talking about with, you said you'd wanting to end your life and all those things. So, that takes a lot of vulnerability for someone that you don't know at all, just from insta hacking you. And of course, I'll let you tell the story if that's part of your story. I don't ever put that on somebody, because I don't say that that's part of your story unless that's, one of those things for you. But thank you very much for sharing that.
Of course.
I do appreciate that. One of the things that I found pretty intriguing about this last little segment where you talked about playing soccer, where you kind of looked at things as being good enough to start, good enough to play, good enough to keep your role, your starting position, good enough to win a championship, which, by the way, congratulations when you did that. It's pretty awesome. I'll never be a soccer champion. My professional soccer career ended when I was 9, I think, so a little long ago. But there's some definite parallels in what you say, Snez, about being on the field. So my field that I've been into in the last, almost 3 decades is in the military. And, prior to all of the conflicts and the wars, it was kind of looked at a different way. And then when all the conflicts happened, it was kind of judged. I don't want to say championship, even though a lot of people in the military have used that as like, practice and then doing it in real life. But I will tell you, myself included, excuse me, there are a lot of people in the military and a lot of friends of mine that feel the same way based on either awards they have, ranks they've achieved, things they've done, maybe getting to the next level or getting to another job, where they just feel like maybe they're not good enough, or they're not good enough to achieve the next rank. And I've done a lot of soul searching in the last little while, but more specifically in the last 3 years. And like you shared with us, one of the things that I dealt a lot with and still do in some regards is feeling, inadequate at times, and feeling like I too wasn't good enough, whether it was in my own family, my relationship with my wife, my kids, and even in the military. And, like you said, it's very difficult at times, even now, to look in the mirror and say those things that don't come across as arrogant, but come across as like, hey, I've got this. Like my friend Zim talks about, playing big. Like, we got to stop playing small with some of these things. That's what he tells me a lot. He's talked to me a lot over the years about that. And it's much like what you said about that. The other point you said, which really hit home to me, is, and I'm sure you're saying this a lot to a lot of people, but sharing that with me now is awesome. You said, hey, you don't have to wait until it gets to be rock bottom in order to start reaching out. And you know what, with us in the military, you've heard the stigma in the military about reaching out for help, post-traumatic stress, and all these other things, depression and anxiety. And I will tell you, for me personally, and a lot of people I know, when I reached out to help and have reached out for help numerous times over my career, that's when I found the most benefit to myself. Not just because I was going to see a therapist, but kind of like you said in the intro about how you feel in the gym. Yeah. It's like when I was doing, and let me know if you feel this way after I share this thought. Like when I was doing the work in therapy or talking to my pastor or even some of my other friends that I find with counsel, is that when I'm doing that work in my head, thinking about why I'm doing things or why I'm saying things or why I'm not doing things, that hard work, that's when I'm finding the most growth. It's not just going there. It's much like you said in the gym. Do you experience that? When you're not in the gym, when you're just collecting your thoughts or doing something, do you feel that you're working as hard on yourself mentally as you are when you're in the gym physically and all these times too?
Yeah, look, I use the gym to work on everything. I think fitness is truly the gateway to just a better human being. I think that too many people go in there and they think that it's maybe like it's the me time or the separation from their life, and they're not looking at it the right way. Like if you look at things like you are going to the gym to get away from your life and it's your you time, then you're just basically using it as a selfish reward. You need to be looking at it like I'm going into the gym, and yes, it's a selfless. The gym is a selfless concept for people. You're going to better yourself so that you're not aggressive or angry or bitter or resentful to people in your life. You're getting rid of all that. That's what you do. So when I'm in there, I'm always thinking like, what can I get rid of mentally, right? And what can I build physically at the same time? And if I can do that at the same time, then I know that I'm going to leave a better person than I came, because I've dropped whatever's annoyed me and I've built what I've needed to then build a little more resilience to carry over to whatever it is that I'm going to face for the rest of the day or the week or the year even.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It brings me to mind if I'm traveling, and I'm sure you're the same way. I always feel like I'm traveling somewhere tomorrow, and I always feel that when I get somewhere, the first thing that I want to do, even if it's just a short walk, is to go to the gym or do something physical right away. It's like that's going to be the first step, because let's say you're going on a business trip or a military trip. Inevitably, the day after the travel day is going to be, it could be hectic. It could be an early morning, whatever it is. You got to iron your stuff the night before, whatever your thing is. And I always feel like when I get there is when I need to get that kind of out of my system and just kind of get like clear the airwaves before I start on my next adventure.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
tell me your thoughts on like you're very seasoned in fitness, right? And I was so it's not Google, right? I don't have to Google search you anymore. I can just read like your web page and all your stuff, which I was doing earlier, just to make sure that I was focusing in on the right stuff. But tell me your thoughts on people that are starting off with their fitness journey, and tell me your thoughts on, do you believe in the mantra like doing just a little bit is better than nothing? Tell me your thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, for starters, I just want to bring some awareness to people in the comments, and I just want to say thank you to people who are saying the content's good. I think that if they're talking to me, talking to you,
It's got to be you.
I just always no, I love showing some gratitude to people who follow me, who follow you, who people that follow both of us, whoever. I want to show some gratitude to that, and so thank you for commenting, guys, on that, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate being here. So I just want to bring some awareness to that. Before I answer your question, because my answer is probably not going to be nice to some people, I think doing less or doing little is better than not doing anything at all is a cop out. I think that people are always capable of more. They choose to do less. And I've had so many times, I had it this morning. I went to my workout. I didn't feel good, right? I didn't feel great. And I'm like, my less is going to be at least 90%. Like that's my less. Maybe I'm not going to give 100, but I'm not going to give anything less. I'm not going to give 50% of work. Like I think that people need to dig a little deeper. Those are the days that you have to dig deeper. Those are the days where maybe you spend more time in the gym figuring out why you can only do a little bit less. Like, why is that your standard for that day? Why do you allow yourself to go, oh, like, I'm just going to do a little bit? Like, I feel like that's the soft and sensitive nature of people that we've kind of like developed. Like society is soft. Society literally are like marshmallows everywhere they go. We squeeze them and they get all big and puffy. Like it's so unnecessary. I think what we can do, if possible, and I think that it is possible. I truly believe that the world can change one person at a time, is they can not get hard and hurtful, but just get hard and more resilient, like be able to handle a little more, right? Like people are dishing and dishing all this stuff, but as soon as you fight back, they don't like it and they get all upset and whatever, like I just think that we could probably amplify our resilience more and understand that the world is just going to get worse. Life's just going to get harder, and the more that you are in control of yourself, everything that you are, the more that you can control your reactions and actually pause You know, there is, I say this all the time, between stimulus and response, there's space. And you get to choose what you want to do with that space. Do you want to sit with it? Do you want to maybe like think about it, feel with it, and then create something that's better? That's what you have. You have the capability, but instead people are reactive. They fire back and then they go, oh, I have to take it easy. Like, it's because you let yourself go all over the place. And I think that that's possibly why so many people, when they amplify themselves for so long, then they feel like they have to pull back and they're like, oh, I'm tired now, I'm annoyed, oh, my body's doing this, my mind's doing that, and then they just soften themselves and then they give themselves excuses. I think there's more people today are filled with excuses, and then they validate their way they feel by saying, I'll just do a little less. Like, could you imagine if you had to just imagine this, if you had to show up for your job and you only got paid for the work you actually did? But would you show up and go like, oh, I'll just do a little bit today? And be like, and then when you get your paycheck and it's so small, you're like, damn it. Like, like every single, it's like what people say, rent is due, right? I think a lot of people say
Yeah.
that rent is due. The dollar doesn't change. Your effort is what's changing. Like, I think that's the reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, are you sure you were never in the military?
I should have been. I really should have been.
Yeah,
Probably.
you definitely. I would have taken you. I did a series on my page a while back called The Foxhole, which is a reference to being in a fighting position. It was all about gratitude, but that thing is like you want people that are like-minded, that are strong, resilient, all that stuff in your foxhole. And I will say this, just to kind of caveat, those are all great points you make. Like a lot of people are talking about the next generation and they're soft and all that. And I think there are people that think that if they say that the next generation or anybody in society is soft, that it's negative and all that. But the way you're putting it is, I think a lot of my friends and a lot of the people that I work with, I think we all feel that same way, in that everybody has the ability to do something a little bit more, and that we as a society are doing more work on making excuses as to why we can't do something than the hard work into doing something. One of the ways that I talk about this a lot with soldiers is, now that you're dealing with soldiers, you have to change that mindset completely. If you're in a leadership position like me and many of my friends on here, I'm so honored to be in leadership positions that I'm in now and will be. It's an honor to be in charge of those that are serving this nation and all that stuff. And I will tell you, like you said, that OODA loop, or that difference between stimulus and response, that little space, well, now that space for me and a lot of my friends, we have a lot more to consider, like others, but in my case, in the military, we have a lot more to consider in that space, because now we're no longer just making decisions based on our own emotions and our own feelings or whatever the case may be, but now we have to consider so many other people. And I think the way you talked about you're having a bad day, is going 90%. I talk about that a lot with leadership, where I'm saying, like, hey, like, if you really feel strongly about this position that you're in, then you have to throw all caution to the wind to take care of those soldiers and to make the mission. You can't just dial it in when the rockets are coming in. I know that's an extreme case, but when we're not at war, like now, like we're not in a regular, what we know to be war, this is the time that we talk about building culture, building resiliency, building those good habits of nutrition, diet, exercise, all those things. So you're exactly right when you say that, or I agree with what you're saying completely. So when you talked about excuse me, sorry, the air. So when you talked about society going soft and it wasn't gonna, that was actually one of the ones you posted the other day, that me and my friend were talking about, how you were basically just calling people out. That's why I say, you sure you're not in the military? So one of my other good friends, he talks a lot about your audio and your video. He uses that phrase and saying, like, make sure when you're doing this that your audio matches your video. So on another side of you, tell me what you do when you're not going hard in the paint in the gym, when you've kind of checked your brain out, which, if you're like me, it sounds like you are. Your brain's never checked out. Mine is never checked out. You can ask my wife. It's never checked out, and my friends. But when you're not doing content and speaking and doing all these things, You obviously walk your dog a lot, a big, beautiful dog in my hometown, which is awesome. Tell me something that you do that maybe would surprise a lot of people, your followers, people that are following me. Like, tell me something that you do that you
Yeah.
level the bubbles with your brain there so you can get after it the next day.
Yeah. So yes, I do like, so one thing I love about animals in general, but specifically dogs, is dogs make you present. Like they force you to be present. Mostly because they are so present with you. I have 3 dogs, by the way. So if I'm not walking one, I'm walking one of the others. And so they do bring me to a place of presence where I have to disconnect from everything. That's definitely one thing that I do. But I will say that one other thing that I absolutely love to do, this is kind of random, but I love watching the sunset. It's a huge thing for me because I actually it's a very short time, right? If you actually watch the amount of time that goes as soon as that sun hits the horizon, you can't help but just pause. And it's actually in that moment that I can kind of regenerate myself and be like, this is like another day that's done, and I have a lot of meaning in my life. I really like to be very, very present with what I have. And I like to stop and focus a little bit more on reflection and gratitude. I don't think that people are grateful enough. I think that's why they're angry. Personally, if you literally just like replace your anger with gratitude, it's an instant change before you do anything. And there's always going to be 2 points in my day where I do show gratitude. One is when I first wake up, and the other is in the afternoon, when I am like sitting, like watching a sunset with my dogs and just showing some gratitude. That's like honestly what regenerates my mind and helps me to continue on, because I think that that's when you don't create the time, the space to have that connection with yourself, it's going to be really hard for you to connect with other people, because you can't even connect with you can't connect with anyone else. And that's honestly something that really kind of sits with me, where I can just find some quiet time to do something like that. It's nothing extreme. It's just something that I give myself the time to actually do.
Yeah, that's great. And look, I'm from Southern California, so the places you go, I mean, the sunsets there are awesome. I'm sure you probably go, or one of your places probably the numbered streets in Newport, maybe
Yeah.
Main Street, Huntington Beach. Go down there, get a taco at Fred's or whatever. Yeah, those good old days down there.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, it's funny you mentioned, not funny, but you mentioned gratitude again, and I mentioned it before. Just to share with you my little thought on gratitude recently, I was down at I went to an Army course called Holistic Health and Fitness Integrator, and it's all about the different pillars of fitness, not just physical, but mental, spiritual, emotional, and it was awesome. And I had kind of an epiphany moment about gratitude. And it was like I scribbled all over this paper in class, and I called my wife, and I was super fired up. We just got done doing PT in the morning, and but I had a short time to talk to her, and then we hung up, and then she called me right back. It was awesome. She was like, "Hey, it sounded like you had a lot of stuff to share with me. Like I'll make some space for you to share it." So we did, and
Wow.
it's a kind of a long story, but it stemmed from when I was a child, kind of always thinking for whatever reason that I wasn't good enough, or whatever the case may be, which neither one of my parents ever made me feel that way. I just kind of made myself feel that way, I guess, based on my own insecurities or whatever. Long story short, I joined the military later. And because I have, like you, that growth mindset, even at a young age, I was always wanting to do more and do better. And so, in order to do more and do better, you have to find that the area in your life where you can fix or change or coach or receive something to be better. If you're going for some kind of, I don't know much about soccer kicks. Let's just say a big soccer kick, a penalty kick, and you miss it 4 times because it's high, then you can work on that. So that mindset turned me into always finding the negative in things, because that's where I found the most growth in myself. Like if I can fix A and B, then I'll be better for next time. Translate that into the military world, especially during combat, I made it a point of searching the negative, because the negative is where we would find discrepancies and things that we needed to make sure that we're taken care of before we went out on patrol to go do whatever we're doing. So the epiphany moment I had was, if I always feel like I'm not good enough, if I'm always searching the negative, I'm keeping myself in a growth mindset, which means every time I find the negative, I fix it, but I want more and I want more. That cycle is never going to break for me. And it
Yeah.
was never going to break for me. And not always, but looking back on it now, it was causing me a lot of trepidation and a lot of heartache because I was never satisfied. And it dawned on me, it was a God moment for me. I was like, I'm so grateful for so many things in my life, but I never focus on those. I am very grateful for my wife and my kids and my family and these other things. But how good of a job am I doing at treating others or talking to others like I am eternally grateful for what they give me, how they support me, etc. So I was like, you know what? Like you said, look, I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm not going to get to the point where no one wants to talk to me anymore. My soldiers don't want to deal with me. And it wasn't that bad. It's not like I was always being hypercritical. Some might say so, but it dawned on me that the gratitude is the part in my life that was missing. And so I made a point to be outwardly grateful and show as much gratitude as I can. And not to the point where it's like syrupy sweet, but like you said before, where you have that time and space in between things. Those were the moments, and a lot of times in the gym and a lot of times on my drive, those were the times for me that I was like, I've got a lot of work to do. You know, all these things that we have to do. But then I'm like, man, like I have my health, I have my family, I have X, Y, and Z. And when I injected, much like you said, when I injected gratitude into my life as like a daily gonna happen all the time, is when it really is when I really started to feel like all the other work that I was doing personally, professionally, spiritually, it's when it all seemed to like be connecting. I'm sure it was the same with you after a long, hard day, going to see the sunset, connecting, being present with your dogs. You know, it changes your mindset when you have to focus on something like a leash correction at an intersection mixed with how amazing the sunset is. You stop thinking about, you know, those other things, you know. So I think that transformation in your head is something that's really crucial. And you know, I've heard you talk about it other times on here, and you talk a lot about choices. So the follow up to that is, how do you feel about people that continuously choose something that's easy for them and then make excuses? I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but what are some tips or tricks maybe that you have or you share with your clients? You know, without giving away all your top secrets and all your, you know, all your top stuff. Not saying that. Not asking for the keys to the kingdom, but you know, tell me about maybe a decision that maybe a small thing and a small thought change that somebody could have, maybe about starting a new diet program, or maybe some of these fad diets that they see. Like, I'm using your peanut butter reference. You know, that someone looks at that, they fall for it, and then, like you said recently on your most recent podcast, 12 weeks into it, they fall off the rails.
Yeah. So I'll start with this. If you make the same choice twice, it's no longer a choice, it's a decision. And if you decide to continue that pattern, it's a habit, right? So if for people that are trying to choose, right, they're trying to choose, like, let's say they make a mistake once, that's fine, that's fair, that we can't be, you know, we can't be too hard on people. But if they make the same mistake twice, then it is a choice, and that choice is then your decision. Your decision is going to have consequences. So, you know, I think for people who are in that point where they need to decide, they need to make a choice. Are they going to stick to it? Are they going to not? I think you have to not make it about yourself at that point. I think you have to look at a higher purpose or a higher power even. You know, and everyone has something that they believe in, whether it's God or the universe or whoever or whatever that you believe in. When you kind of connect to that, you start to understand that you have a choice to really make yourself whatever you want. And you're not necessarily doing it for you, but you're doing it for the greater good. And the greater good is going to make this world a better place. I think people are too quick to look around and see what's wrong with the world, but not look inwards and see what's wrong with them. When you look inwards, you understand that you are the problem. You're always the problem. You're everyone's problem, and you're your own problem, and you stand in your own way. And that's essentially what everyone needs to do. I will constantly look back at myself and go, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And you know how we have that, like, this is how I always know that someone is either making a good decision or a bad decision, how do you feel after that decision that you've made, that choice that you made? If you feel shitty, maybe you feel guilty, you feel shame or embarrassment or whatever it is. If it's a negative emotion, it's telling you your decision was wrong. If it's a positive emotion, you get a good feeling from it, it was a good decision. It was a right decision. And so I love referencing or going, like, putting this back to Maslow's law of the hierarchy. And like, if you can like honestly understand it, everyone carries with them a frequency. Whatever emotion they're feeling, it carries with them a frequency. There's an energy attached to it. You're either down at shame and guilt, which is 20, or you're up at enlightenment and fulfillment, which is 700. If you're making bad decisions and you're in that low level state, then you know that you are going to have some serious karma and consequences. Regardless of if you believe in it or not, it's going to come your way. It's going to slap you across the face. If you make better decisions, you're going to come up to like courage. You're going to come up to like love and support and all these better emotions. And if you truly are making the best decisions for yourself and for others around you, you're going to hit enlightenment, which very few people, maybe 2% of the world, actually get up there, if that. So at the end of the day, assign your how you feel to a choice, and you will know which way to go.
Wow, that was great. Yeah, I love Maslow. You know, obviously we all want to get, you know, like they teach back in school, you know, they want everyone, or the goal is to get to that top level, you know, that self-actualization is the top of the pyramid. And, you know, it's funny, I did a video about that, a very short one a while ago, and that's what I said. I was like, look, very few people, in fact, I'd have to think hard pressed to someone that I would look at and say that I could say they're fully self-actualized. You know, that's just such a very finite thing to do, you know. But along those lines, to your point, I think a lot of people in their career and their fitness and their relationships, I think they talk themselves into what they believe to be self-actualization to fulfill the negative or bad decisions that they're making. You know, they feel very comfortable. They feel like their fitness and all their things are where they need to be. They're not really looking, you know, introspectively, and they're in a support system or they're in a relationship that kind of keeps them there because they're both feeling that way. And the outward manifestation is like, yeah, like I'm arrived, you know. In California, I refer to this as the $10,000 millionaire. You know, all these guys and girls that are running around that feel like they're being judged by what they have and all these things, and they feel and they exude these things that are self-actualized, and that, you know, we all know that not to be the case. I always joke and say, you know, when they take their S-Class back to their apartment and they take their Rolex off and set it next to their Rent-A-Center table, you know, they're not really making a lot of right decisions, you know, when it comes to that. So the self-actualization piece is really great, and I think that's something that a lot of people gloss over. The mindset piece. I don't want to take a ton more of your time, but I just have a couple of questions. It says, I want to ask you, because I've read through your stuff or whatever, but what's your ultimate goal? Not ultimate. Let me rephrase that question. What are some of your goals in what you're doing now? What are some of your goals, like some big, you know, big vision board goals that you have? Because I can't see those, and I would love if you would share what some of your goals are with us, so I can, you know, so everybody can kind of know like what's the trajectory, where you headed.
So I think my purpose in life is to impact as many people as I can. I would like to do that as positively and constructively as possible. Sometimes it doesn't get perceived or received that way, and that's okay. But I do want my goal to be to help as many people as I can to understand their self-worth, because I think too many people don't feel good enough, and I know what that feels like, and I don't want anyone to go anywhere near that. And I want to try and help people to understand that they create their own worth if they are willing to pick up the pen and write the story of their life. No one gets to dictate what your life is, and no one gets to dictate what it looks like. Maybe someone somewhere along the way got to, you know, write a few pages for you, like your parents, when you were younger, but at some point you got the opportunity, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the experience to pick up the pen and write it yourself. And so my goal is to try and bring as many people to a point where they feel worth it and they carry themselves with confidence. They carry themselves in a way that betters their life, betters the life of their family and friends. And, you know, they can really kind of really live it. You know, the goal is always to be fulfilled, you know, not to be happy. I don't like happy because happy is an emotion, but to be truly fulfilled. So my goal is to speak more on stages and in front of bigger audiences where I can hopefully give them that gift. Because for me, giving someone the gift of confidence and, you know, that feeling where they are valuable, they are important, and they matter, that means more to me than any dollar out there. That means more to me than anything else that there is. So that's really my goal ultimately.
Well, I could definitely see you speaking to large crowds. I mean, again, you have your energy is infectious. I love it. I could tell that you're just in the game. I could tell. I love it. People say that to me. I'm not comparing us, but you know, I'm very high energy and high octane, so to speak. You know, I'm kind of loud. I kind of do things like that. But I'm glad you mentioned that, what you did. You know, that if you would have tried to put that in a tagline in Instagram, I would have never been able to fully read that. I've read your mission statement a few times, and it speaks to that, bringing out the best and doing those things and removing those barriers that we bring on ourselves, which, you know, you so eloquently talked about here. And just a cheap little tagline. It is kind of funny, but you know, my page is very much the same way, and the stuff that I talk about is all about living your legacy and trying to be the best version of yourself. And we all have heard that phrase, let's be the best version. And so you talk about feelings, you talk about emotions and all these things. And on your video earlier I was watching, you talked about it. You don't want people to be better for you, right? Like, you're talking them through it, just like me. I don't want someone to maybe read a snippet on my page or see a video and think like, I want to be like Grant, because that's not what we want. That I don't want more Grants out there. There's barely enough room for me as it is with all my craziness. Just ask my parents and my wife, especially. My wife could give you some good ones. But maybe there's a mindset thing that I've done or you've done, or an experience that you've had in your walk, an experience that I've had in my walk, and maybe there was something that we encountered that we talked through, maybe how we got through it, or what things we did, or what modalities we might have used to get there. And it's kind of not cheesy, but I heard someone talk about that dash in between their headstone is their birth year and their death year. And the only thing on that headstone that represents your time here on Earth is that little tiny dash. And so that's why I decided to call my page and my stuff Dash Legacy, is because that dash is all the time we have here on this side of Earth. And we owe it to society and our loved ones and our family and our coworkers to build that legacy. And so when we look down on our headstones later, what are we imprinting on that granite? Is it going to be loving husband, father, mentor, soldier, friend? You know, what are we doing now? That's why I talk about living your legacy and each day. And so when we have these conversations like you and I are having, which again, thank you so much, Snez, for having this conversation with me and bringing your energy and light to the people that are following me and watching me. You're just fire. Like, your energy is like I want to put it in a bottle and take it as like a pre-workout. It's awesome. But building our legacies each day, making the best next decision that we can for ourselves, our families, our loved ones. And like you said, you know, associating when you have a good feeling after a decision or bad, you know, really being present in those thoughts. And look, I'm the first one to tell you, later on tonight, I will probably make a bad decision in some way. I'll say something, or my kids, or, you know, we're all a work in progress, and we all have, you know, we all are fallible human beings. But you kind of touched it exactly, which I'm so glad you did, is that you talked about getting present with your mind and getting present with what you're doing and how intentional that you're being, not only with others in your life, but with yourself. And I think you're doing an amazing job of displaying that. From what I'm seeing here, I only imagine that everybody that knows you in person is just that much better for talking and interacting with you. You've got a great story. I'm really, really thankful and appreciative of you taking this time today and sharing all of this with me. I'm so much better for hearing your insight to this, Snez. So I really appreciate it. Do you have any last things to tell everybody, or tell them to go work out or hit traps, or let's go? Let's give them let's send them off with a good like a good one.
Yeah, yes. You know, I listened to this the other day, and I think that it's important to remind people of this. You know, I think we get so caught up in the small, little, minute issues that are surrounding us. We think that everything is an issue, everything is a problem, and we get so caught up, and we let our minds get so fixated on it. And here's the thing, you know, we are all going to be buried in 100 years, all of us, you know, some of us even before that. And we're all going to go, and we're all going to be buried. And so in 21, 23, none of us are going to be here. Someone else is going to be living in the house that you are living in. Your car is probably not even going to exist anymore. There's going to be something newer. You know, like the job that you have, you will be replaced. Your role might not even actually exist anymore. So if something is not going to matter in 5 years' time, you can't spend more than 5 minutes on it. You just can't. And too often people will get so consumed by something that will not matter in 5 days, in 5 months, in 5 minutes. And we get so consumed by it, and we allow ourselves to fall victim to it. So I think that if you can get control of where you are in your time and in your space, and not let yourself react to people, and honestly just kind of check back in with yourself, take a moment. All it takes is literally 1 minute, 60 seconds of some serious breath work, like just breathe, get present with yourself, then go out and fight the world. But if you are going to be a reactive person, you will lose, and the world will come and get you. And I am probably going to be putting up this video very soon. But if you're one of those people that goes and says F the world will come back and say F you. Let's make your life harder. So what you put out, you get back in. And whatever you reap, you will sow. And I don't care if anyone doesn't believe that, because it is 100% the truth. How many times have you wondered why something happened to you? Very often people will be like, why me? Why me? You know what? Why not you? Why not you? Are you perfect? Are you doing everything right? Probably not. You could probably do things a little better. You could probably speak better. You could probably spend a little more time with someone that you should be spending time with. Or you could probably speak to someone a little kinder that you maybe aren't spending the right amount of time or the right amount of words with. This is the kind of stuff that people need to improve on. They put so much energy into people or places that they shouldn't. And if they just gave a little bit more of that to themselves and to people that are worthy, they would change so much. And so I think that more people need to understand that. And the last thing is, I think people need to show themselves. I get so many people commenting. It's always the bad ones. It's always the rude ones that have their account. You can't comment back to them because they don't allow mentions.
Of course.
I love those people, because I'm like, seriously, you're really going to not let me mention you in return? Don't comment. So that's number one. But that's annoying. But anyways, I think that more people need to show themselves. Don't make your account private. Just put yourself on public. There is nothing you need to hide. You are worth being seen. You are worth being known. You are worth everything. Like, I don't understand why people will put their social media on private. There is no need to hide yourself. You deserve to be seen. More people should see you. You probably have so much good stuff to say and show, but you are scared. People are so scared of what people are going to think, and the judgment, and what someone might say about something. I love getting to know people by just looking at their social media and going, hey, what's your resume? What is your brand? What are you saying about yourself? And if you are constantly private and not letting anyone in, then guess what? You're hiding yourself. You're hiding yourself online. You're probably hiding yourself in person. And why? Ask yourself why. You don't need to do that, because if you're confident, you probably are willing to showcase yourself, and you're probably willing to showcase what you're all about. And that's what I want to encourage people to do. Like, show yourself. Literally, like, Disney put out a big movie for it with Frozen, saying, show yourself. Like, this is what we need to do. But the reason why people don't do it is because they're scared. You remove that fear and that doubt, replace it with courage. I guarantee you, everyone and everything will be better. So I want to encourage people to show themselves. And if it's your followers that are here in this live right now, I'm going to encourage them to reach out to you and jump on a live with you. Jump on this live with you, ask you questions, jump on this live with you and tell their story, because this is what's going to be great. You are willing to share your story. I'm willing to share mine. Everyone can share theirs too. Because you know what? Everyone has learned something, and there is not enough mistakes that you can make in your life, right, to know it all. You need to learn from other people's mistakes. I'm shared with you my mistakes. You've shared with me your mistakes. I won't go and do the things that you've done wrong because I've seen the consequences. Why would I go and do it as well? We can learn from each other. But I think too often people think that, no, just let me take this journey. Let me make all the wrong choices and decisions. Hey, how about you just teach me some stuff and we can learn. So I think that you can be so much better if you literally just put yourself in the same corner. And I think anyone can have a conversation with you like this and share so much like of their own knowledge, their own wisdom, their experience, and bounce off you. Because I think we're all meant to connect with each other on a better, like humans are meant to connect. We're literally we need each other, right? One of the human needs is connection and relationships, so the more that you establish them and the better that they are, the more fulfilled you're going to feel. So I hope that can kind of encourage people to like just show yourself and don't be scared, like remove that fear and just go after it.
Yeah. That's a great idea. I can give you a little pointer on that. You can just find someone like you, start Insta stalking them, and then request a live. You happen to be like, know where they're living now because that's where you grew up. Like it'll work out perfect, right? But no, just the last thing on this. Yes, I agree with everything you just said at the end there. I mean, I've agreed with everything that you said. The main, another one of the main reasons why I started this page is because I've been so blessed and lucky to be around so many soldiers in my career, and that I'm very new to social media. So I think like let's continue to build community together, which is rooted in a lot of the same things. You see, a lot of us are gravitating around faith and fitness and nutrition and all these things, right? So I'm not a fitness influencer. I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm just me with a lot of experience, and I'm trying to connect like-minded people and build this great community together. So you hit it right on the head. And that's why, like, I'm doing it. That's why you're so big on this platform and others, is because we want to share experiences and be better versions of ourselves. Just like you said, we all say that, but we're willing to do it. I know I get a lot of people commenting on sending me messages about these things and being able to help others. And like you, I feel like this season in my career for the military is where all I want to do is give back. I have achieved so much. In fact, I hate to bring this up, but I'm going to anyway. This sounds a little selfish and a little proud, but I'm going to anyway. So I won this big award, which you can see on my page, and I expected like some accolades for it, which I got. It was amazing, had a great time. But what I didn't expect today is my wife told me, hey, you got a letter from the chief of the Army Reserves. And I opened this letter walking down the thing, and there's a hand-signed letter from the 3-star general of the Army Reserve, Lieutenant General Jody Daniels, saying, hey, I did a great job, all these things. It was awesome. And what I'm going to do now is probably tomorrow is I'm going to shout her out and post a video and say, hey, let's do more of this together so we can all do it, right? So I'll try to use what I can to continue to help build this community. But again, Snez, thank you so much for allowing me to Insta stalk you. I'm glad. I'm so blessed that I got to know you and hear a little bit of your amazing story. Thank you for sharing that with us today. This is my first time like bringing someone in kind of the talk style. So thanks for giving me the practice. Thanks for sharing all your energy with us. It's amazing. So for those of you that aren't following Snez, jump on her stuff, jump on it. Every little bit helps. Every little connection is going to be amazing for all of us. And again, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I hope to continue to chat with you in the future. I know we will. Please keep looking for peanut butter. Please keep walking your dogs in my hometown. I love seeing that. And again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
All right. Bye.